So in this video I'm going to show you how to make pom-poms and tassels. So for the first part we're going to learn how to make a pom-pom. I'm going to teach you two different methods. We've got our traditional method, which is where you just cut out a circle of card to make your pom-pom, and then there's our other method of using an actual pom-pom maker. So let's start with our traditional method. So first thing you want to do is cut a circle of card. So you can use any card, so any from your recycling will be absolutely fine for this. And then once you've cut out a circle, we then make a smaller circle in the centre. Then you'll just want to draw two lines just coming outside of this circle, which you'll then cut in and create a little keyhole shape. And this is the shape that will make your pom-pom maker. So if on the pattern it says to make a pom-pom of a specific size, what it's meaning is the size between these two circles. So for example, if you had a 10 centimetre diameter pom-pom, you'd want from this point here to this point here to be 5 centimetres. So then either side, when brought together, will make a 10 centimetre pom-pom. So you want to cut two of these templates out and you'll lay them on top of each other, as so. So to make our pom-pom, we're going to get our yarn. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply wrap our yarn around these two circles. So you can see the cutout's nice and easy. So you can just take your yarn and wrap it around. So there I've just wrapped our end in. Then I'm going to take the other side of the yarn and just wrap it around, as so. And we don't want to do this too tightly, because when it comes to cutting later it can make things a little bit more difficult. So now we're just going to wrap the yarn around our card. So I've carried on wrapping the yarn around my pom-pom maker, so I'm now happy with how this looks. So I'm now going to cut my yarn here, and now it's time for the next step. So what we're going to do now is, this is why we have two pieces of card. So we're just going to go into the middle of these two pieces, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting all the way along the edge of these two pieces, as so. So just go along. And as we're doing this, you want to make sure the little pieces don't fall out and they stay in our nice hole in the middle. So kind of put your thumb there if you need to, just to keep them in place. So now I've cut all the way along the edge of my pom-pom maker, and I've got all our little mini piece of yarn in the middle. So now it's time to secure these all. So I'm just going to grab a contrasting colour of yarn to do this, just to show you a little bit easier. So with our two pieces of card, I'm just going to go about 20 or 30 centimetres in from the end of my yarn, and we're going to simply slip, see, our new piece of yarn through our two pieces of card, as so. Bring them around to our other side. I'm going to cut our yarn, and then we're going to knot these together nice and tightly, and this will become the centre of our pom-pom. Pull it in nice and tight, and you can see how that's just tightening up for us. Then I'm going to bring it round this side and do it again. Pulling it nice and tight. And then let's just do it one times more for luck. There we go. Once you think that is nice and secure, you can simply slip our pom-pom maker off, as so, and then give it a little shake around, and there is your pom-pom. You will notice in some sections you might have ends that are just slightly longer than the rest. So this is the fun bit. So this is when you just give your pom-pom a little bit of a haircut and make sure you're happy with how it looks. And that is the first way of making your pom-pom. So with your two ends that you've tied at the bottom, I like to leave these long if I'm, for example, sewing these onto a hat, as then I can then use these ends to sew it onto the hat, and it makes the pom-pom even more secure. So now let's make a pom-pom with our pom-pom maker. So with these you have two sides, and we're going to wrap the yarn around either side, bring it together, cut the ends like we did with our other one, and then tie it off. So let's separate this out, and I'm going to work along this side first. So I'm just going to get my yarn, and we're simply going to wrap it around this side, as so. Wrap it round as many times as you want to make a nice full pom-pom. There we go. So I'm happy with how that looks. So now I'm going to cut this end and repeat the same thing for the other side of my pom-pom maker. So now you can see both sides of my pom-pom maker are nice and full. So now I'm going to bring them both together to close it. And now we're going to cut along these edges to make our pom-pom shape. So just going in to the little groove there, and we're going to cut all the way along. Being careful not to miss any little bits as we go. So that's our first half complete, and now our second half. So now they're all done, our final step is to tie the yarn around it, just as we did with our other pom-pom. So I'm getting the yarn, leaving about a 30cm tail, and I'm just going to put it in between these two grooves, all the way through to the other side. Just going to cut my yarn, leaving a nice long tail again, and then we're just going to tie these together, nice and tight, securing our pom-pom. Bring around the other side, repeat again, and then doing it once more just for look if you'd like to. There we go, and that is our pom-pom all nice and secure. So now let's take it out of its maker. So lift these two side edges up, and these ones here. There we go, and finally just pull apart and ruffle our pom-pom up. There we go, and then our final step again, just give it a little haircut, and that is your second way of making your pom-pom. So now I'm going to go on to show you how to make a tassel. So I find the easiest method for doing this is just using different size books and things around your house. So I've got two different sizes here. So we've got a larger one if you wanted a really long tassel, and then we've got our smaller one, which is the one I'm going to use today. So if the pattern asks for a certain diameter of tassel or length, you just want to find a book or a kind of square object that's got a similar length to that. And if it is a little bit longer, you can always trim it to size, so don't worry about finding an exact length. So I've got my book here, I'm going to hold it horizontally, and I'm just going to grab my yarn, and I'm literally just going to start wrapping it around it. So I'm going to get that first end just to the end of there, and just gently wrap it around it. Now if you're making more than one tassel for the project, then I think it's a good idea just to kind of, as you're wrapping it around, count how many times you've wrapped it around the book, and then you can do it for each tassel and they'll all be the same. So I'm happy with that I've wrapped around. I think that'll make a nice tassel. So now I'm just going to take my scissors and just cut that end there. Now next step is to secure the tassel. So to do this, I'm going to grab my yarn. I'm going to grab a different colour so that it's nice and easy to see. And I'm just going to pull the tassel slightly out from the book, slip my yarn into the tassel, bring it to the top. Now I'm going to cut my yarn and knot this together. And this will become the top of my tassel. So knot it together nice and tight. And you probably do 2 knots so then it's nice and secure. So now our tassel is secured at the top. So you can then cut our tassel at the bottom, as so. So just being careful as you do this, you don't want to ruin your book. There we go. And you can see our tassel has now been formed. So now the final step is we're just going to wrap our yarn around just under from where our top knot is, and that is going to create our finished tassel. So I'm just going to grab another colour of yarn for this, just so you can see what I'm doing. So I've got our next shade here, and I'm just going to start probably about 10 centimetres in, about 2 centimetres down from my tassel. You can kind of do it wherever you think looks nicest. And I'm just going to wrap this yarn around the tassel. Again, making sure it's nice and tight, so you really want to pull it in. There we go. Just drop that around a few times until you're quite happy with how your tassel looks. And then I'm going to cut that yarn. And we're just going to tighten this as well. There we go. And that is our tassel made. So if you find that at the bottom our little bits are a little bit different in length, you can just go in, just give it a little haircut so you're happy that it all looks nice and even, like so. And then finally, if you've done mine like this one in a different colour, you can just get a needle and just weave those through into the centre of the tassel. So I've got a needle just here. I'll just show you how to do this. So we're just going to pop that in. Again, just weave that, open it up if you'd like to, into the centre and pull through. And the same again with our other end. Pop it in. Pop it just anywhere into the middle of our tassel. And pull through. And because mine are a different colour, I'm just going to trim mine nice and close to the top. So then, when my tassel is all done, you can't see them. And that is how you'll make your tassels.